Hello guys, get straight into it. I've been seeing a lot of people do this specific video kind of, I think either 1 month or 2 months ago. I don't know exactly when we hit the 6-month mark. I'm not the best at knowing what number the month is. Actually, I am. We're in 8, so -2. We've already surpassed halfway through the year. I really enjoy watching these videos of people talking about all of the books that they've read for the year so far, and I love the end of the year recaps too, but you know, you just have to wait an entire year to get those. It might not be like a crazy huge amount of books, but I feel like it's a good amount for me, even though I am very behind on my Goodreads reading goal. My goal for this year is 50 books. I'm currently 15 books behind. But I'm so delusional that I always have faith in myself that I'm somehow gonna catch up, but we'll just see how that works. You guys can get comfy, grab a little snack. I already have my snacks going. I made myself green tea. Well, she's good today. And then I also have my little packet of 𝐿𝐿𝐲𝐿𝐬 for the day. I've been really going ham with these things. I get the 𝐿𝐿𝐲𝐿𝐬 daily sugar-free. They have like low sugar ones too. This part of the video is actually sponsored by 𝐿𝐿𝐲𝐿𝐬, which is really exciting because I have been trying to not like get into supplements like completely, because I'm definitely not like a super fanatic supplement vitamin person. I feel like it could be a very overwhelming thing. There's just an array and a giant stack of just bottles of vitamins and vitamins. And I'm like, I realistically don't want to read all of you, and I also don't want to like have to have this many bottles in my house. It just seems very inconvenient. So I've been eating these 𝐿𝐿𝐲𝐿𝐬 literally every day for the past, I would say, week and a half. And the way that it just seamlessly folded into my drink, I wake up, I take my lemon water, and I have this before I go to the gym as a little pre-workout snack. It genuinely does taste like fruit snacks. 𝐿𝐿𝐲𝐿𝐬 does so much more than just like make it a tasty little snack for you. They're made with high quality natural ingredients. There's 8 gummies that come in each pack. They're vegan, dairy-free, gluten-free,
and nut-free.
And like I said, I get mine sugar-free. You could get low sugar, but honestly the sugar-free one, it tastes good. It says on the back that it's packed with 60 vitamins, minerals, and nutrient-dense ingredients for like whatever benefits you're looking for. I specifically was looking for hair, nails, skin, a little bit of gut health. So this has biotin and niacinamide, which really helps with that. And it also contains vitamin C, which I feel like is just really good to be having consistently because it really helps your immune system. Regular multivitamins sometimes only contain like 7 to 9 vitamins, but these gummies have 20 plus vitamins and minerals and 60 plus whole food ingredients. Honestly, when you're on that last one, when you finish it up, you're like, I want more. I don't even recognize like how hard it can be to get a balanced, nutritious diet with like all the nutrients that you really do need to have a healthy lifestyle packed into all of your meals. In the meantime, while I get there, I do think it's really comforting knowing that I'm taking these gummies every day and I'm making sure that I'm getting all of the healthy nutrients that I need. You can get up to 45% off your purchase of 𝐿𝐿𝐲𝐿𝐬 just by clicking the link down below in my description if you want to try it out. I do feel like this one, honestly, has been really great. It's kind of checking pretty much all the boxes. Like I said, link in the description. It'll get you up to 45% off. First book that I read of the year and in January was The Midnight Library by Matt Haig, and I rated this one a 4 stars. I do remember that I really enjoyed this book, and honestly the more that I think about this book, the more I see myself rereading it, and I definitely like recommend this book to a lot of people. This book is about this girl named Nora. Well, Matt Haig specifically does a lot of like magical realism, but it's like magical realism that normally has a messaging, and I do really want to try out some more of his books. I don't know why I just forgot to buy them. Basically, this book is about a girl named Nora, and she dies. She's dead. When she dies, she goes to this place called the Midnight Library, which is kind of this limbo, this middle ground between life and death. So technically she hasn't died yet. She hasn't passed on yet. In this middle ground, it's basically just a library of all of the alternate realities that she could have lived based on like if you just switch any tiny minuscule choice. You know, say like when you're younger or something and you decided instead of swimming, you're gonna do track. You get to see so many of the different scenarios, possibilities that your life could have been, and that's basically the Midnight Library. And the premise of it is that she's supposed to get to go to the library and then choose what life is gonna make her happier to go live in. And that's kind of all that I can give. It's not really like a book that you can kind of like spoil. It's kind of just more of like an experience. I wrote in my notes, changed my perspective on regret and life choices completely. For my sanity, the multiverse must be real. I specifically really would struggle with regretting major life choices that I would make, because I'd be like, oh, well, I would have been happier if I did this. I would have been happier if like this version of myself existed. I would have been happier if I went to this school, or like I would have been happier if I never quit sports. Like all of these things that kind of like nip at me because I see other people living those lives and I'm like, well, I could have done that, or like it could have been my life. But honestly, after reading this book was when I had a huge change in perspective, and I was like, girl, like this is your life, like this is the life that you have to live. Like I don't want to spoil like the big encompassing like revelation, but I do just want to give you one quote. I'm not going to give you a quote from all of these, but I feel like just because this one is just like I highlighted because he was speaking facts. It is easy to mourn the lives we aren't living. It is easy to regret and keep regretting ad infinitum until our time runs out. It's the regret that makes us shrivel and wither and feel like our own and other people's worst enemy. Those lives are happening, it is true, but you are happening as well, and that is the happening we have to focus on. In kind of like a magical realism type of way, like I have to believe that there is another Maya. There's multiple, infinite amount of Mayas in other universes living out the different choices I've made, and she is trying to be as content as she can be in that existence. It's like that reality of me, say, not going to a certain school, or me not like doing this specific sport, that reality just wasn't my reality because it wasn't meant for this universe, but some other Maya is living that out in her own universe. But I highly recommend this book, and I gave it 4 stars. Moving on, I'm not gonna go that long in every book, but I just feel like starting off with that one, it needed to be explained. The next book that I read of the year, and I feel like what really kickstarted what the craziness that we have going on, like the start of my just like buying book craziness, Mile High by Liz Tom Ford, and this is the first book in an interconnected romance series, the Windy City series, which is basically a bunch of sports romances that take place in Chicago. This one specifically is NHL, which is the National Hockey League, and it follows Xanders and Stevie. Xanders is a professional hockey player. He's like the bad guy. He treats people terribly. He treats women terribly. He runs through women, that type of trope. And Stevie is the flight attendant on his like charter plane or whatever. So definitely spicy, definitely steamy, but I ate it up. I rated this book a 5-star. I loved it so much. I love Evan Xanders. And then what did I say as my note? I said, bruh, I am now a romance girly. Evan Xanders is my angel, baby. I love him. I don't think this was the first romance book. This might have been the first like sports romancy, like contemporary romance book I read, like ever. No, that's not true. That's not true. But like this was the first contemporary romance book I read that I actually enjoyed, and it kind of kickstarted me into knowing what type of romance books I liked. Like I was like, oh, I want more of this. Whatever this is, I want this. I didn't even realize I read this right after, but right after I read the second book in the series, which is The Right Move. A lot of people just read this one because it's really just such a good romance book. I would not recommend reading them like on their own, like reading the books out of order and not reading the other ones, because this is a very interconnected like series. This book is basketball romance. Ryan Shea, he plays for the Chicago whatever NBA team. He's an NBA player. He's like one of the top best players. And then it follows Indy Ivers. Indy Ivers is Stevie Shea's best friend, also flight attendant. So it's like they all run in the same friend group. So like these two pop up so much in this book. So it's just, that to me is what added to this book, was being able to kind of just feel like it's literally an interconnection. But really it did feel like a connection. Like it didn't feel like, oh, I'm breaking stuff. It didn't feel like Xander and Stevie's story ended with this book. It just keeps continuing on, and we see so much more of that story in this. So I highly recommend starting with that one. If you're struggling to push through it, just listen to it on audiobook. But I feel like it'll make this experience so much better. But this book ate and left absolutely no crumbs. There are no crumbs left behind. The plate is licked. There's not even sauce on the plate. There's nothing on the plate. I gave this a 5-star. And my only note was literally Ryan Shea, period. Ryan Shea is the best book boyfriend I have read so far, and I also don't think he can be topped. The things that this man does, he is a acts of service king. If you're somebody that loves acts of service, he's an acts of service king. He's a jealousy king. words of affirmation, all of the love languages. All of the love languages, he embodies them and he eats them up. Indy is also very cute. It's grumpy sunshine. It's also forced proximity because they're roommates. Do with that what you will. And I also like that with all of the Liz Tom Ford books, there's like this underlying, honestly, it's not that under, but there's kind of a more intense, like either like mental health awareness thing. Like for this one, like it's heavily talked about like therapy, depression, all of that stuff. And I forgot what this one is, but there was some like, you know, like mental health, like there's always like some type of like messaging in a sense. 5 stars, no notes. Please read that. If you take anything from this video, please. After that, I read the 3rd book in the series, which is Caught Up by Liz Tom Ford. This one follows Kai and Miller. This is a Major League Baseball romance, and this is also single dad trope and nanny trope. This was my first time reading single dad and nanny, and I ate it up. I ate it up. It's now one of my new favorite tropes. This one I actually rated a 4.5, which is still amazing, but I just know it didn't give me the feelings that the other 2 books gave me. It was a little bit less. I was a little bit less feral, specifically for Kai Rhodes. I was a little bit less feral for him just because he's less of a feral man. He's older, okay? He's got his head on his shoulders, so he thinks. And this book, like Ryan Shea is like 20 something. Like he's in his fresh 20s, and he's also not a father, so he's like kind of doing crazier things for Indy. Whereas this one, I feel like Kai was just very mature, which we love. Like it was very attractive, very much loved to see, but I also kind of just need a little bit of feral in my fictional bookmen. There's continuation, like huge continuation of this relationship in this book. Now we're in February. The next book that I read was Yours Truly by Abby Jimenez, and I rated this book, I rated this low. Well, I guess that's not low. I rated this book a 3.5. which I guess like that's realistically not so low of a rating. I think that's like my average rating. When a book is below 4, I really do, like it makes sense because I forget little bits of it. But I would say my favorite thing about this book was definitely the MMC because it has really good anxiety representation. I felt very seen, and I feel like I hear a lot of people with anxiety say that. The way that Jacob Maddox is, it just felt very endearing and it felt very, very realistic, and it was nice to see a man having anxiety in a book where it's like represented like that, because I feel like that can be seen as like not masculine or whatever. It was still like, he still ate it up. Yeah, I think I was just indifferent to the girl character, which is why I probably gave it a 3.5. Like I think I was genuinely sticking through it for the little moments of Jacob Maddox because he's just so, he gives very much water sign. Like everything he does is just very sweet, very golden retriever, but he's also like, he's not even like a grump, he's just an anxious introvert. So it's like cute, like he's just very cute. So I was reading it for him. This is when we started the book club. I know I have a book club on Fable. It's always linked down below. I also have a Bookstagram, which I probably post like once every 2 months on. I'm trying to get better at posting on it. So this was the first book that we read for the book club, and I don't know if this was the start of the curse, but the book club books just haven't been the best ratings for me personally. I've been going through that. I rated this book I didn't tell you the premise of Yours Truly. Sorry, rewind real quick. This is why my brain just doesn't work. Yours Truly, basically, they're doctors. He's a doctor, she's a doctor. He's the new doctor to town, and they get off on a bad foot. He's kind of trying to like fix that. And then honestly, that's really the plot. And then after that, they're kind of just existing like they're doctors. Is this fake dating? Oh, they fake date. See, I should have just read the blurb. Right, he gives the brother a kidney. That's in the, right, forgot all about that. Right. I think they fake date. I think they fake date. Sorry, completely forgot that. This is a YA romance by Joya Goffney. This is about, what are their names? Quinn and Carter Bennett. They're in high school. Basically, it gives like To All the Boys I Loved Before vibes. She has a journal where she writes all her deepest, darkest secrets in. Her journal goes missing, and basically somebody's blackmailing her. They're gonna like release stuff on the journal if she doesn't do things within the journal. Carter, this boy, like goes and like he helps her accomplish the things on the list so that she doesn't get the full journal exposed, because like he feels responsible. I gave this book a 3-star, which I do feel like was generous in my perspective. Like I really do think I gave it a 3-star because it was the first book club book that we had, and I didn't want to like just come in with so much negativity to start off with the book club. This book also really made me kind of solidify that YA romances just really might not be for me unless they're like extremely depressing and sad. Themes and the topics, not that they felt juvenile, but it just didn't feel very nuanced. But I just didn't like that they were nuanced in general. Like this book, it has a lot of like race theory topics, and you know, it talks about a lot about class differentiation within like the Black community, and you know, being ghetto or being like bougie and like all of these things, which is like a cool conversation to have. But I feel like because it's YA, it couldn't be as nuanced as it was meant to, so everything kind of just felt very matter of fact, and I kind of really don't like that. Not a huge fan of like making race a huge plot point of a book but then not actually going into the nuance of it. Like I feel like I'm cool with just having 2 Black characters and they fall in love and that's fine, but then once you start putting race theory in it, like now I want you to actually like get into the nitty-gritty of it. And I feel like this book didn't really do that. So it kind of just like ended up upsetting me, because I'm like, well, I would have been fine if we just talked about the romance. But then since you brought this up, now I'm here trying to debate like whether this makes sense or not. Miss Iconic Icebreaker by Hannah Grace. I read this because I was just trying to get into the whole virality of it, and I did not expect to eat this book up as much. I fully expected to hate it the way that people hate this book so bad, but I am I'm on the other side of the people that I feel like you either astronomically love this book or you astronomically hate it, and I did really love it. I rated IceBreaker 4.5. I've always been trying to describe the type of romance books that I like, because I feel like you either like romance books like this or you don't. And I recognize that I'm not a huge fan of like rom-com-y. You know, like a rom-com movie structure. I feel like this one kind of has that, like where it's like you have to wait till the end for them to like get together in a certain way. I like books like this where like we're together by the 5th chapter, but it's just like a messy ass situationship. I eat that up, because to me personally it just feels a bit more realistic, because I feel like, I don't know, like the relationships that I've experienced, like it's not just like, okay, like we meet, I like you, there's an issue, we figure out the issue, now we're dating. No, I feel like there's a little bit more gray area. I feel like it's a little bit more muddled. A lot of people don't enjoy this book because it is a lot of smut. If you don't like smut, I don't recommend this for you. A messy ass little college situationship hookup. I don't know. It just felt very realistic, especially like the communication style of the characters. Also the guy, it's like black cat, golden retriever. The guy is the golden retriever, which is so cute. He's just like so into her, and she's just like so focused. I also completely forgot to tell you the plot, just because I'm always thinking that everybody knows the plot. But basically, she's a figure skater, he's a hockey player, and something happens where their rink, like they have to share an ice skating rink, and they also end up having to be skating partners and do that. So like basically they're kind of just like forced to always be around each other, but they kind of have like a bad first encounter, so it's kind of like that enemies to lover-ish vibe. But I just really enjoyed the atmosphere of this book. It felt so comforting because it's the college setting. It's like at this like college house with all of his like, not frat brothers, but it's like the hockey players, and they all live in this one house. You get lots of interactions with like all of them together, and it kind of just, as somebody that didn't get a college experience like this, it made me feel included. Moving on. Moving on. She's just so cutesy. She's just so cute and pretty. Every time I look at this on my shelf, I'm just like, this really just exists on my shelf. Next book I read was the first book in the Magnolia Parks series, which is this Magnolia Parks. And this is by Jessa Hastings. And I read this because of the hype, and I am now a part of the hype. I understand. I rated this book a 5-star. My note said, WTF. My mind is blown by all the drama I just consumed. That was my note. This book is great if you love reality TV, if you love messiness, if you love people completely demolishing their life, if you love people with questionable morals and just reading about that and then just like you're questioning, are you a good person or are you not? I mean, this is just the first book. This first book definitely does not give love story. This first book was just pure entertainment and rage for me. Like, I felt like I was let into the group chat of like the popular kids in school that like would never speak to you, and you were like finally like let into their group chat and you just see all the drama that's like happening to them and you're like, oh. A lot of people compare this to like Gossip Girl and stuff like that. I would say it's like a mix of Gossip Girl with a good like heavy-handed dash of Euphoria. Lots of Euphoria. Definitely giving Rue. When was this? And it's giving Cassie. What are you doing? Next book I read was Bride by 𝐿𝐿. I rated this a 3.5. It's really showing. Every book that I've rated under a 4, I'm kind of forgetting what it, like the vibes that I got from it. This was like 𝐿𝐿 first kind of like paranormal romance book. I don't know, like I forgot most of what happened in it. It didn't like give me any like huge feelings. I also think I had to finish it on audiobook because like I couldn't like get through it reading it on paper. I just felt like it was lacking the tension that I normally have. Honestly, like it felt very plot heavy, which is cool. Like I feel like a lot of people like that where it's like plot heavy, like plot. Like we're focused on like solving this and like we're focused on the plot, especially because it's like vampires, werewolves. Me again forgetting to describe what the book's about. Basically it's following Misery Lark and what's the guy's name? Lo Moreland. Misery's a vampire, Lo is a werewolf, and the two species don't like each other. Marriage of convenience. Misery's father marries her off to the werewolf to like keep the peace of the species. So she has to like basically go to werewolf territory, and it's like that vibe. Yeah, I just felt like it was like heavy on the politics, but also not too heavy because the politics was kind of interesting, but seeing that it's not like a big like romantasy, like it's not like a fantasy focused on the fantasy aspect. I feel like we didn't get enough of either one. I feel like we didn't get enough of the politics, but then I also didn't feel like we got enough of the romance. So I felt like I was just kind of in the middle. I was kind of in the middle and I couldn't decide which I really vibed with. This was our next book club book. Again, I really think I gave this a higher rating than I would have truthfully wanted to, but I gave this a 3. This is Lore of the Wilds by Annalay Sabrana. Oh no, I do remember why I gave it a 3 stars. This was a debut author. I don't know, something about that, I just wanted to give it more grace because I think the imagination of the idea was really nice and she really hooked me in with like the blurb and everything, and like I think the premise of the book sounds really great. I think the execution was just lacking, and the reason that I wanted to give grace for that is because I feel like sometimes execution really can be helped by like having an editor and having like a big publisher behind you. Me again forgetting to tell you the blurb of the book. This one follows, what's her name? Her name's Lore. In a land ruled by ruthless fae, 21-year-old Lore 𝐿𝐿 village is trapped in a forested prison. Lore knows that any escape attempts is futile. Her scars are a testament to her past failures. But when her village is threatened, Lore makes a desperate deal with the Fae Lord. She convinces him that she will risk her life for wealth, but really she's after the one thing the Fae covet above all, magic of her own. As Lore navigates the hostile world outside, she's forced to rely on 2 Fae males to survive. When undeniable chemistry ignites, she's not just in danger of losing her life, but also her heart to the very creatures she can never trust. The premise of that blurb, they eat and they eat, but I just feel like that blurb wasn't necessarily executed, and I do feel like the book was trying to do too much within only like, I think it was only like within only like 300 pages. It should have been split into like 3 different books. It could have been a trilogy, all on this one. This is The Neighbor Favor by Christina Forrest. This one I also gave 3 stars. Lily Green and Nick, I don't know his last name. Nick Brown. Lily Green and Nick Brown, this takes place in New York City. They're both writers, and basically she's been like struggling to like find a relationship and all this stuff. The beginning premise is that these 2 people were like communicating over email. She was communicating with like her favorite fantasy author, and she was like catching feelings for him, and then he ghosts her. Now we as the audience and this is all in the blurb. We as the audience know that Nick was actually the famous author that ghosted her. It just so happens, because of fate, moves in next to her, and he's her neighbor. He's trying to help her find a date for this wedding in like a couple months that's coming up. He's kind of keeping this big secret from her. They're both kind of like catching feelings for each other. Like the premise of it, but I think it just wasn't one of those romances for me. Like I said about the yours truly thing, I don't know. Something about me just kind of feels impatient. I'm like, can we skip to it? Can y'all just be together so I can see like the cute moments? I don't know. That's sometimes just how I feel. It's cute. I could see this eating as a movie. This would eat as a movie. This is Long Shot by Kennedy Ryan. I rated this book a 4-star. Read every single trigger warning that is given to you and take it seriously. This book is about Iris Dupree and August West, and it's kind of like a sports romance. Is in the NBA and she is not, but basically they meet one night at a sports bar like right before the NBA draft, and they like connect very fast, but she is already with somebody. She's already with like basketball's golden boy per se, and so she's like, you know, she can't do anything with him, and they kind of go their separate ways. But it does follow like a pretty long timeline where we get to see like them grow. When August re-enters her life, the world seems briefly bright again, but Iris's darkest night are not yet over. To survive, she must build her own strength and trust that her bond with August can endure after all this time. Sometimes I feel weird about describing this book as a romance. Like I feel like the second half of it is very much romance, but the first half is I don't want to say traumatizing in a general statement. It definitely traumatized me, and it took me a good little while to finish this, just because the trigger warnings are like domestic violence, SA. I didn't realize how graphically detailed it would be, so I was kind of like taken off guard by that. That's why I would say, like, I mean, it is a romance because it's a love story at the end of the day of like how they come together after that, but it's just like that beginning is like a really, it's a trek. Like if you're somebody that is definitely like, if you get triggered by those things, by DV, SA, and violence, then I would say really take this seriously and really question to yourself if you can read something that goes into very like heavy detail in that. But if you can, I would recommend it, because I feel like a heavy topic like that could be hard to trust an author to really execute it well. But like Kennedy Ryan's writing, it just felt like it was executed so respectfully to like victims in general, and it just, I don't know, like it just, her writing is also just so beautiful. Like I could read her describing a plant and I feel like it would sound good. I do recommend it, but just be fair warned. And August West, he is that guy. I do eat him up. I do eat him up. Like To Love and To Loathe by Martha Waters. Sometimes I forget if I even finished this book. I gave this book, whoa, this is the first time I'm seeing this number. I gave this book a 2.5. I really disliked it. I gave this book a 2.5. I said this book is the definition of you had me in the first half. It's like a Regency romance. So it takes place in like the 1800s in somewhere in England, and it's basically about Diana and Jeremy, and they've been like longtime friends, but they're kind of like those bickering, bantering type friends, and they have really cute banter. It's kind of like, I wouldn't say enemies to lovers, but it's like frenemies. Like it's like we make fun of each other, we tease each other. They make a bet that Jeremy will find a wife by the end of the summer. The rest of the book basically takes place at Jeremy's like summer house with all this stuff, and then like all of the friends come and like they're like doing all of these like activities and stuff like that. So kind of giving like Bridgerton vibes. That episode of Bridgerton where in the second season where they go on like to the country house, and Anthony and his wife have like those moments like outside, like, you know, like those moments, you know, it kind of like gave those vibes. But like that's kind of the whole book. For some reason I just felt like it dragged, which is crazy to say because this book is only like 330 pages, and I read this book which is 450 something, and I didn't feel like this one dragged a single bit. I feel like every moment in this book was necessary. Every 460 pages of this, necessary. But this one I felt like could have been like 100. I don't know, it was just something about the way that it was told. Like, the characters just kept going back and forth. Like, why are y'all know you want to get together? Why are you trying to piss yourselves off and then in turn pissing me off? I think I kind of just like, I wasn't able to fully connect with the characters. And then what really set it off by the end of it, when I hated the characters, was when they started outing very personal things about other characters that other characters said to them in confidence. And I was just like, well, now you just have terrible morals. But it wasn't like a Magnolia Parks terrible morals where I'm supposed to know that. Like, I feel like I'm supposed to still like them, but I'm like, but they're not good people. So I give it a 2.5. This next book also was a 2.5. No wonder I started slowing down, because I kind of started getting some bad books. This was another book club pick. Okay, so Emery is like a single mother. She's a working woman. She's kind of struggling. They're not very well off. She doesn't have any support system, and she's like struggling to pay her bills. Oliver Smith is like this famous musician. He's like reeling from like a really terrible thing that's happened to him. He's like trying to cope, but he has terrible coping mechanisms. So he's really spiraled, and he's like a drunk. They connect, and like he basically like brings her into his life and into his world and stuff like that. And that's kind of just like how it starts. There's not necessarily like a trope. I just like, I don't know, like there was just something about, like I said, very meh. It didn't move me. It didn't like do anything really like crazy for me. I also feel like I just wasn't super into the guy. I wasn't super into Oliver Smith. Some of the characters just felt very one-dimensional, like especially like the villain characters. Like, it just felt like you made this character a villain for the sake of them being a villain, but you didn't give them an actual reasoning or a backstory on why they're treating these people so terribly. And I kind of felt that way for all of the bad characters in this book. I love a good bad character. I love when a character is like terrible and treats someone bad and da-da-da, but I want to know why. Because people don't just do bad things for no reasons unless you're a psychopath. I want to be able to therapize you. I want to be like, oh, your childhood trauma. This is the way that you are. This is why you are the way that you are. And then the final book that I've read for the year so far is The Fine Print by Lauren Asher. And I rated this a 4.5. This is my first Lauren Asher book that I've started, and it definitely, I feel like, has gotten me really interested in wanting to read more Lauren Asher books, the series in general, because this is part of the Dreamland Billionaire series. I feel like I've talked about this a lot because I'm currently like reading the other books in it. So I feel like with my reading vlogs, if you've seen them, I just keep talking about the premise of this book. But basically the premise of the Dreamland Billionaires is that somebody dies. And there's three brothers, and in order for the three brothers to get their inheritance, they've each been tasked with a specific thing that they have to do. And that thing, it doesn't necessarily relate to romance, like the specific thing. It's just like a task, and then it ends up becoming like a romance thing. This follows Rowan, which is Rowan's the youngest. And it also follows Zara, and this one takes place in a theme park. Basically, it's like Grumpy Sunshine, not a cringy Grumpy Sunshine, like it's very good. Rowan's like the perfect amount of grumpy, like so good. He's also a billionaire, so it's like lots of the private jets, and like he's got like, I could buy this, I could buy that, and I eat that up. I didn't know how much I liked the billionaire trope until I read this book. They're working together to kind of like fix up this theme park, and they build a connection and stuff happens. But it's like, I don't know, sometimes when I feel like describing these books, it's like there's not much to say except for the tropes that it is, because other than that, it's really just seeing the little moments that happen inside. And I really do, I just like books that feel very domestic, that feel very like calm. Like I'm just seeing you guys cuddle up and eat ramen. I don't know, like go on your first date. Like I need those moments to just like connect with the characters and connect with their like relationship. Almost as if I'm watching like, I don't know, like a freaking YouTube couple or something. Like I need you to overshare. I like when you overshare. I like the interconnectedness. That was all the books that I've read in 2024 so far. I think it's 15. Which, as you can see, is why I'm 15 books behind on my Goodreads little challenge. If you've read any of these books and if you had like a completely different rating than me, please let me know what your rating for it is. I don't know if I have a reading vlog going up before this or if I have a reading vlog going up after this, but I am trying to get back on my reading vlog grind. I'll see you in the next one.